Bob Pompeani here on the Ireland Contracting and Nightly Sports Call, Pittsburgh CW, the Borders and Borders hotline, which is buzzing, as you would imagine, 412-575-2600. Let us know what your take is, but my take is it could very well be a non-playoff season, and that would be stunning. The only word I can describe or phrase would be free fall. You can't lose these games. They're all winnable. They were in position to win. And the defense also, against opposing quarterbacks on the road, has given up huge passer rating numbers. Combined 116 for opposing quarterbacks on the road. Let's go to Big Will. Hey, McKees Rocks.
Hey,
Big
Bob,
Will, what's
how
up?
you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good. Hope you feel better soon.
I feel fine. I just can't get rid of the stupid tickling cough, but go ahead.
I hear you. I have a comment and a question. First of all, I wouldn't be a bit surprised the way they're going now if Cleveland gets a better record before, at the end of the season than they do.
That would be hard for me to imagine. But
oh, that'd be hard, but, it's a possibility. But you talked about deferring earlier in the beginning of the show. With them keeping on deferring, does that cause them any chance of also losing for as much as they defer?
Well, if your defense doesn't give you a good enough job, they like to end the half on a strong note and then carry it over in the second half. I understand the logic of deferring, but my point today was if you're going to do that, you better know your defense is going to shut them down and don't fall behind. I thought one of the keys is jumping on this team. They're 2-10 after all. If you jump on them and get ahead, make them feel, like they have to pass on every down, and they had a better run game than the Steelers. That's another problem for me. This run game, and this was the scenario that we were talking about. If James Conner got injured with no Le'Veon Bell back there at all, he was a big insurance policy for me. I would have done everything to get him in here. I know they tried. But if they were guilty of anything, they were guilty of underestimating his desire not to play. And they should have known that. All right, well, thanks. Appreciate the call. Let's go out to Josiah in San Antonio. He's always full of opinions. Josiah, I'm sure you're having a rotten night.
Yeah, I am. How you doing tonight?
I'm all right. How are you?
All right. Just got a quick question about Ryan Shazier. They had a video of him lifting weights, and then they also had a report about saying he was jogging. Do you know if there's any possibility if he's doing that just to stay in shape, or do you think that he possibly was trying to make an NFL return?
I think he is using that as whatever motivation he can. He's said that publicly. He'd like to return. I find that really difficult to believe given the surgery he had. But
Right,
if it's his motivational fuel, good for him. He's doing it, and he's doing it in a way that not many people saw coming. So tremendous for him.
Yeah, because Stan Savran had a podcast a while ago, and basically he was saying that the doctors told him if he had any kind of injury close to that, he would be paralyzed.
Yeah, I don't think it's worth it, and my guess would be he never would play again. But if he believes he can, and if that's what he's using to get himself back, good for him. Anything else?
Just a question. Do you think next week it will be safe for Big Ben to play, or do you think that they may just not? Because they said
it was safe for him to play today. He got back in the game. I don't understand it. If he's cleared to play, which he was, then why was he not in the game earlier? That makes no sense to me.
Yeah, Tom.
And I also don't know whose decision it was, and I'd like to know more into that. So.
Yeah, Thomas said he didn't want to break the groove up. Appreciate it, Bob.
What groove? Thanks, Josiah. What groove? They weren't doing anything offensively. They only had a 4-point lead, and it didn't get any better. So they got to do something better than that. I'm sorry. Let's go out to line 3. That's Mike in Oakland. Hey, Mike, welcome to the program. Go ahead.
Hey, Bob. We're all miserable tonight, at least all the diehard Steeler fans. It's a game that I'm not going to pat myself on the back. And I knew they were going to have trouble. They never do well against Oakland for some reason.
I don't understand it. I just don't. It goes beyond Tomlin, by the way. It's in Cowher's era. It was in Chuck Noll's era too. I
agree.
I don't understand.
Yeah, you're right.
Well, by the way, just like Miami dominating New England in Miami. And
that's another weird one. It doesn't make any sense. But briefly, two quick questions. Do you think Boswell will remain on the team this week? I can't see them keeping him, even though he signed the contract. They have to bring in some kickers. I think he's cost us at least 2 to 3 games himself. Number 2, there has to be some heads going to roll, right? If we don't make the playoffs, I mean, the pass defense is atrocious. I mean, they look so confused and discombobulated out there. I mean, it's time. I think they start maybe going against their grain and signing a high-priced free agent, not like a Burnett, but like someone a top shelf like a Hayden, who we got lucky with. What do you think?
I think you made good points, and I would say it's a combination of schematics and personal lack of ability. I don't think some of the players they have are cut out to do this, at least not at this level. Artie Burns' situation has not helped them. He's a #1 pick. They had high expectations for him, and he's nowhere to be found because he can't play. Today we saw Sean Davis, who the longer this year has gone on, the worse I feel about him. He had what looked like an interception on a terrible Derek Carr pass, and it went right through his hands. Schematically, they're letting tight ends beat them all over the field. Schematically, at the end of the game, when Derek Carr hits a wide open tight end for the game-winning touchdown, come on, that can't happen. Which is why I thought Mike Tomlin should have called a timeout there too. Save time. You're going to need it. No one else will need it. And if they do score, you got to leave yourself something. Line 4, Jim in Mount Lebanon. Hey, Jim, how are you?
Hey, Bob, how you doing?
I'm good, thanks.
Hey, I just want to say I don't know why Ben didn't come in earlier. And another thing, I think it's time for Tomlin to go because he's not a great coach. He's just an okay coach. And the reason he won that one Super Bowl is because he had college players, and he ain't done nothing since that.
Well, first of all, I'm not going to go down that thing again with Cowher's players. We've talked about this over the years. What I will say is that typically something like this happens, there will be changes. I doubt seriously it will be Mike Tomlin, but it could be staff members under Mike Tomlin. And that's what happens when you fail when expectations are very high. And this is what's happening. This is what currently is the situation. Now, as we've seen in the NFL, you watch today, it's a big reminder that things can change in a hurry in the NFL. All those outcomes today, a lot of them were highly unpredictable, but they happened. The Steelers, if they would win 3 in a row, get hot at the right time, who knows? But I want to see it happen, and I want to see what happens next. And if they don't make the playoffs, seismic changes could be happening. I wouldn't rule any of that out because of the expectation level of this team. Line 5, it's Rick and Elizabeth. Hey, Rick, how are you?
Good, Bob. How you doing?
Good, thanks.
Hey, real quick, just to jump on what you had said regarding Oakland when they were down by the goal line when they ended up scoring a touchdown at the tight end to go ahead. You have 2 offensive linemen who can barely walk for the Raiders, and we only bring 4 guys, and we drop 7. And the one guy on the edge, I don't know who it was.
It was Mike Hilton who went the other way and fell, or I don't know what he did. He expected an out move, and he got an in move.
And, you know, I just don't – you got 2 guys that can barely walk. Why are we not bringing the house on Carr in that situation? And I don't know. Good things happen when you bring pressure. And the defense all year long, I think, has let us down. And they haven't made a play when we need them to make a play. So,
well, I think that's the whole thing.
Thanks, Bob.
There's a lack of everything going on out there, and when you're in this position, you need to shut it down. They had 75 yards to go. Oakland didn't need a field goal. They needed a touchdown, and they got all of it. That's on the defense. It was like that last week as well. It's an average defense based on what I see right now. And given how many sacks they have, it should be better than that, and it's not. We're going to take a break. Dan, Alex, Dave, and Charlene. All coming up next right here live, Pittsburgh CW.